So I think, ma'am, if you could just start with an introduction about yourself, and then.
I am Jayashree Ratan, and I'm the founder of Saisha India Foundation. And I have been, right from a very young age, I have always been leaning towards social service. And because I had a grand aunt who was a great social worker. And she wasn't very well educated. She was just a high school in those days of the early 70s or even late 60s. And but I was amazed by the way she used to work. And I had always, as a result, I had helped when I was in my younger school days. I have been in NCC, NSS, Social Service League. And then I used to do a lot of work for the Mercy Home. I don't know if you know that. It is all in Chennai. The Mercy Home, the Little Sisters of the Poor. There's Little Sisters of the Poor is a place run by nuns for the aged. And they have branches all over. I think they have one in Bangalore too.
Yes, I've actually visited there. I did do some service with them for a year.
Yeah. So I used to do that when I was in college too. And we used to practically go door to door begging, They would accept even a rupee in those days as donations. And I've done that. And I've also worked with YWCA, Young Women's Association. And it's always been there. It's there it's there with me, it's a part of me. And later on in life, not all during the same period, I've also been in the Sai Seva organizations, the Satya Sai Seva organizations, where I was one of the youth. I was in the youth cadre for them. That's called the Seva Dal. And we've been working like that. And even that was in my youth. And as I grew up and I got married and I was working in a bank, even there, I prefer to work at the front desk and not at the back. And I've given up a lot of my promotions because I wanted to be with people. I like to be with people. I'm not one at the back. Even today, that's when my husband tells me, you're okay with the phone, but if anybody tells you to write something, you're flummoxed. You just don't know what to do. I'm stuck. So that's how. And that's it. That's my introduction, I would say. I've been a what do you call that stone that gathers no moss, because I've been all over the country and seen all over the places. And I realized how we need to help. That's been in my blood. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. I think that's a wonderful introduction. And honestly, it's so inspiring that you've really had that since the youth. And most of our audience is actually teenagers. So it's quite inspiring to hear that you can cultivate that habit from such a young age.
Yeah, we have to. One second, I'll just need to put my phone on silent because I want to sort of. It keeps ringing now. Nowadays, it's just there's no stopping my phone from.
Yeah, I think once it starts, it doesn't end.
I'm stuck, Raisha.
Oh, no problem, ma'am. Don't worry. All my moral support is with you.
I'm not able to get my phone to go back.
If it's an iPhone and it would have a ring.
It wouldn't come. It wouldn't come.
Oh.
I got it. Yeah.
No, I'll put mine off then. I mean, I didn't realize.
Because I get a lot of calls through and through. They keep coming.
Right.
And now with this awareness week going on throughout the month, it's
it is Pinktober. So
I have been right from 8 in the morning. I've been on the phone, and I've already.
So thank you so much for then coming.
Yeah, tell me. I love talking to young ones. Yeah, young girls are wonderful.
So my first question is just your story behind Saisha and what really inspired you to create Saisha.
See, as I told you, my introduction has been that I am sort of a word. And it so happens that I shuttle between the US and India because of some other, I used to be 6 months in the US. And there I used to find it pretty boring sitting in the house doing nothing. And I picked up, YouTube and crochet and knitting and all that sort of thing. And I used to volunteer for whatever donations that used to come. They used to ask for scarves or caps or something like that. And I had come across the knitted knockers. I've seen their knockers. It was a very amazing concept that you knit something and give it to the cancer patients and it's free. And it was something, it really, it was very amazing to see the form of the knocker. that was, it was so real that I thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. How could somebody create something which looks so much like a breast?
Right.
I did make a couple of them and I gave it to them, a few, not maybe a little more than a couple. But then in 2018, on one of my trips back to India, we went to a New Year's party of my daughter-in-law's aunt. And she had gone through a mastectomy about 3-4 months ago, back in 2018. And then I came to know of it and I asked her, what do you use? She said, nothing. I just roll up a dupatta or a handkerchief and I use it. I said, this is what is there in the US. And I have given this to a few people. So how would you like to, knitted one, how would you like to, this is what that was like, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This is a crocheted one. I said, how would you like to use one and see? And then she said, I mean, she was okay. She said, no problem, because I have never seen anything and nobody's ever heard of it, right? Then immediately I came home, I knitted a couple of them and I gave it to her. And this took about 3-4 days. And the next day I get a call back from her saying, she was literally in tears. She said, this is so wonderful. Why don't you think of making this for the others? I said, yeah, but that is a little too much, because I can understand making it for one person, but others, I said, yeah, it's a good idea. Let me see about it, because I wouldn't know how to go or not. Then I met a couple of my friends, we got together and we were actually, out of this, one was been a very close friend of mine for more than 20 years. The other was a friend whom I acquired through one of her Guinness records.
Okay, wow.
I am also a Guinness record holder. And she was, yeah, we did a Guinness record of blankets, the largest blanket. This was in 2015. And
wow.
She too, and that's how I got to know. I asked her and she said, yeah, it's a good idea, Jayashree, we can try it out, I mean, we were 3 ladies who got into this saying, yeah, we can try it out. So then what I did was I signed up, I looked up to I said, yeah, he said, yeah, we can try it out. I said, is it going to work? I said, let's do it. I mean, I was one who would just try anything at all for the heck of it, for the fun of it, If it works, if it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So that's how we started this. And yeah. I signed up with the knitted knockers. I looked up the knitted knockers. I said, this is something I like, the principles of the working, that volunteers buy their own yarn and make it and give it, and we give it free. So they also agreed with it. So I looked up the knitted knockers and I signed up with them as one of their providers in India. And that's how we started. And this is a knitted one.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And you're right, it's so realistic and looks
it's so real.
Also.
Unimaginable that you can make something like this.
Yeah, really. So, I mean, I love that attitude of, like, let's just try it. Let's see how it goes. But what was probably the first initial challenges of, setting up?
That was, yeah, we set it up, we opened it up, we signed up with the knitted knockers. Then the challenges started one by one.
Okay.
First and foremost was the knitted knockers had specific yarn, cotton yarn, 100% mercerized cotton. And that was a big challenge. It still is a challenge. It continues to be a challenge of getting the right type of yarn, because we wanted 100% cotton. And I found that what was available in the market was too twisted and too rough. So I had a lot of R&D to be done, a lot of sourcing, and before I could settle on some particular vendor, that we have now settled on 3 vendors for our yarn. It was a great challenge. It has taken me more than, I think, nearly 18 months. But yes, we did. We started with 3 very slow. We were very slow when we started. We just had 3 volunteers, and we also didn't know where to give the knockers to. That was another challenge, because yes, one of my relatives took it, but how many more people are there whom I know? So then we had to, sort of, I wouldn't know. We approached through some friend of mine. She said, we have an organization in Bombay, which is catering to screening and all that. So you come look into, we went there. They took a few of our pieces. At that time, we had only about 10 or 15 pieces with us, 20 pieces. They took it from us. We were very happy. Oh my God, 20 pieces have gone to somebody, you know, we were so happy. But then again, the problem is we're going to make more. We had by this time, I think we had about 7 or 8 volunteers. That's it. And the challenges were there. And I had gone to the US. So when I came back again in September, I started hunting for the yarn, and I settled on some yarn. And that increasing awareness is always been a challenge. Call our survivors as beneficiaries. The other challenge was getting the fiber for the knockers to be filled. That was a very big challenge. It was very expensive in the market. And what I was getting in the market, I was not happy with.
Right, yeah.
It was not pure white. It was a slightly yellowish or greenish or grayish color.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, when I researched, I thought it was recycled polyfiber. Whereas in the US, you get very good polyfiber. And you know, the problem with me was, Raisha, I had seen it in the US, right?
Right.
I was constantly comparing the yarn and the fiber with what we have seen there, because I wanted to be the same that the knitted knockers were giving us. And I'm glad to tell you that we have nearly, I would say 90% of my yarn is similar to them, what they have.
That's great.
And also another of the basic challenges we faced was the cost had to be low. If I wanted volunteers, see, I started it, maybe I could have spent 2,000, 3,000, it's fine. Right. But not everybody was going to be doing that. So I had a couple of volunteers who joined us. They said, oh, we have to buy the yarn. I said, yes. Okay, one time it's okay. And what if I want to do it again? You'll have to buy the yarn again. So we needed to look at somebody who really gave us, you know, good quality yarn at a very affordable price for all volunteers to come. These were challenges. We are still having them. We are still going through. We are learning in the process of our challenges.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm also really interested because you said that, you know, finding the yarn was difficult in India itself. So how did you manage that now that you are in 5 different countries? So how did you scale that in the other countries?
The sense, everybody takes the yarn from India.
Okay. All right.
They bring the knockers back to India. I don't give it outside.
Okay.
So I give it only in India. It's only for our Indian cancer survivors. And the yarn has to be from what we have approved, because that is the way knitted knockers are working. They also have a list of approved yarns, different types of yarns. And we are slowly adding it. We started with 1, now we have 3 vendors for it.
Okay.
And there's a lot of sampling that has been going on. I have been purchasing yarn left, right, and center, and, you know, sampling, making the knockers, and happy that I'm okay with it or not okay with it. And that is when we start approving the yarns. So it's
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you are, you know, satisfied with the yarn quality, etc., how do you convince the cancer patients to accept such a different product? Because, you know, it's quite unconventional.
There is no different product. There is no product alone for them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that is where we have to, getting hold of the beneficiaries is very difficult. That has been a major thing. That has been our real stumbling block, is the awareness is not there. And once the awareness is there to a certain extent, people just love our knockers. Everybody loves them. There is hardly a few of nearly with the 4,500 knockers I have given out so far in a rough. I would say hardly 5 or 6 people have said they are not good. 4,500 knockers is roughly maybe 2,000 people, 2,000.
Yeah.
Of which hardly 5 or 7 have said they are not good. And they have their own reasons for it, because they had the scar is not yet there, and because it is an open thing on the back.
Right.
Suggest that you use a cloth and you cover it if you want to, and take it when you wash it. But yeah, these are things, and see, when the thing is, when I talk to the beneficiaries, they haven't had an alternative at all. Most of them have either kept a dupatta or they've kept paper. Newspaper rounded up is what they have kept. You try keeping a newspaper, Raisha, on your skin and see how you feel.
Yeah.
So when we tell them that this is there, they just grab it. Actually, for this, as you said, I have personally taken these samples to some of the hospitals. This was before the COVID in 2019. I've gone to the doctors, I've shown them the piece, and that's when they have said, okay, we'll try it out with some patients. And then I've spoken to the patients in the hall, given them this and asked them to use it. So I have taken it around and gone and showed it to them. And that's the only way you can. And when one person has taken it and she's happy, she immediately connects with her in the group and says, for instance, just as the question you asked me, yesterday I got a call from a lady from Tata Hospitals, Bombay. She said, "Aap ye de rahe kya? Free mein de rahe hain?" I said, "हाँ, free mein de rahe. आपको कैसा मालूम पड़ा?" I just like to know how they got to know. She said, "नहीं, मैंने टाटा हॉस्पिटल में बैठ खड़ी थी, मैं अपने टर्न के लिए, तो बाजू में there was a patient. She told me that you give this."
Right.
So this is something so personal that a woman is prepared to tell another person with the same problem, unlike normal things which we will not share with others. They are prepared to share with you this information.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because actually you're really uniting women, right? Like breasts, and it's a big part of womanhood. So
yes,
it's really beautiful. Yeah. But I mean, you were speaking about going in person during before the pandemic, but how has the supply chain kind of shifted during the pandemic?
During the pandemic, what has happened is we have increased in volunteers numbers out of sheer word of mouth. One volunteer telling the other that, or her friend or her relative, this is a wonderful job I'm doing, it's very nice. And so the volunteers have spread. And then when they spread, they come across people who they know have got cancer, and they're connecting us with them. So that is how we're getting the patients. But then there's another thing I should say is 2020, we did have a lot of media coverage, which has helped us tremendously. It has really helped, because every time there is a media report, there is a spurt in the requests for knockers. And we've been very blessed that way, that people have come forward themselves and asked us for interviews so that we can get covered in the media. We haven't done anything by ourselves. I would say, I'll say from day one that this is God and only the providence which has allowed us to go where we are. And we have a fantastic set of volunteers who will go to any lengths for it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And in fact, getting volunteers to sign up and put in their own, it's not only their effort, but also their own resources. So, and also requiring, say, training and all of that. Yeah. So, sorry.
Yeah, what we do is our volunteers, most of them ask them, see, when they, and the thing is, I have spoken to each and every one of the 200 plus volunteers. Okay. I would not take them in without speaking to them, because I want to know and expressively tell them this is the way Saisha functions. There's absolutely no commercial interesting in it. And there is going to be no fame, no gain from this, except the fact that you will get the blessings of all the people you give your knockers to. That is how I function. And that's what I have told the doctors too. I've actually been told by a couple of doctors, they asked me, what is there in it for me? I said, the blessings of all the women you give it to, which is something you don't get very easily. And I tell you, Raisha, this is genuine blessings that they're giving. I mean, I'm so passionate about it, because the way they bless you, I mean, I don't even know who they are, but they are there and they give you all the blessings. They say, thank you so much. God bless all the entire team of Saisha is what they tell us. And that is something really wonderful. So that is all that you can ask for, that you can give so much to people.
Definitely. And I think that's, at the end of the day, the true spirit of philanthropy as well. Just giving back without expecting anything in return, except the blessings, of course.
It's just the blessings, nothing else.
Definitely. And I mean, on that note, like, how do you, even like, how do you keep the volunteers committed to that over time and also improve their training, etc.? Because
see, what we are doing is, when the volunteers come in, I speak to them and I tell them that they have to buy the yarn.
Right.
We have started training from 2020 September till then we were not training. Whatever knockers, we had the patterns and they would individually ask me, I would help them out. And then we didn't even have much of YouTube or anything. The YouTubes were from the knitted knockers had put YouTubes of.
Right. Yes, on your website,
yeah.
I think the videos.
No, Knitted Knockers website have the YouTubes and they were what we were using. But slowly, sometime early 2020, we started making our own YouTube videos for the making of the knockers, because we found that many of the volunteers would not understand the accent of the Americans over there. And they found the videos were very long and they were not able to connect. So I made a couple of videos. Another of my volunteers made a couple of videos, and that's what we put it on our YouTubes. It's not very professional, but it serves a purpose. That's what we're bothered about. And then we said, then our volunteers, we were already nearly about 150 volunteers. Then they said, I was getting all sorts of knockers. I mean, knockers that I couldn't use also, some of them. And I said, I used to feel bad to tell the volunteers, I can't use yours, take it back. So I'll keep it with me and I'll redo it. I'll open it out, wash the yarn, redo it myself. And that was getting to be very difficult. So our volunteers, some of them said, there should be about 150 of us now. Why don't we take up training of these women when they come in? So that's how we started training them. We have 3 levels of training, beginners, intermediate, and final. Beginners would be people who have been out of touch with knitting or crochet, or people who want to learn. So then the intermediate would be a second level of it. And the final is when we tell them what is the reason we want you to go for training and why we will refuse a knocker which is not perfect, and what are the mistakes you're likely to commit. So we explain all that to them. And then we have recently started issuing certificates to those who complete those trainings. And there is going to be a quality analysis being done by one of our trainers, one for knitting, one for crochet. And only when she says it's okay, perfect, we go ahead and ask them to make knockers. We get our volunteers to come join our training with whatever yarn they have and whatever hook or needle they have. They practice the pattern. And then when they are comfortable, we ask them to go ahead and buy the approved yarn. Because what happens, Raisha, sometimes they join you and then they go through the pattern and they feel, I don't think I can do this. But if they purchase the yarn, it's a big waste. So we don't want you to waste. We say, do with whatever you have. Do the pattern. If you're comfortable, then go ahead and purchase the yarn. And then you have to do a sample of the knockers and send it for a quality person, because we're doing it all virtually. I need to see physical sample before I say you can go ahead and make knockers. So we have started to maintain a particular standard, because we need to have the standard, otherwise the shapes are different, the sizes are not the same, we have problems in sizing. So we have started to be a little strict on that. And I'm glad we are doing it, because I've heard some doctors say, the knitted knockers from Saisha are very good, please take it from them. That is what I want to hear, that particular volunteers.
Right.
That's it.
Definitely, that's great. And I mean, since you are getting volunteers, I think in a way, maybe the pandemic has helped, because you've gotten volunteers from so many different places.
We had a couple of, I had some very good friends in the Middle East.
Okay.
So started this project in 2018. They said in 2018, middle of 2018, she said, let me try and get some volunteers here for you. And that's how it started in the Middle East. And getting yarn, of course, was, earlier they were going up and down, frequency was there, movement was there. So they'd buy the yarn and take it from here, and they would bring it back when they come on a holiday or something like that. Middle East was that. And then word of mouth, it spreads, So there was a lady who came in from Canada. Actually, she's no more. She passed away last year. She came in from Canada and she said, I wanted knockers for my friend, and I didn't know she was going through cancer. And now I find she's got cancer. And knitted knockers is something over there. I was looking for it and I found your name and I want to volunteer. And she brought in a lot of people. She brought in her relatives from Singapore, some more from US and some from Australia. So it does spread. And because we're doing some good work, they feel that they have to spread this, and they come back and they take yarn from here. I don't know. I'm very happy that they do that, but yes. And pandemic has helped us in training virtually and seeing that everybody is happy.
Yes, that's true. And I mean, I think you've kind of hinted on this before, but how, like, tangibly, how do the knockers really help the survivors of cancer?
See, once, as you said, the breast is a very
Integral part.
Part of a woman. And there's a lot of trauma attached to a woman when her breast is removed. See, Raisha, we would not understand that unless we go through it. See, that is a question I've been asked often. You are not a survivor. Why are you doing this? I don't know. I absolutely have no idea. I mean, I started this and I felt it was a very good project. I never even thought about, these aspects of survivor, not a survivor and all that. But while I've been going through this, I've learned that as a survivor, there are so many things, because I speak to the beneficiaries, that is the survivors, most of them, I've spoken to them. The problems, they come up, and being a third person, they open up and they talk a lot. I've realized that a breast cancer is very different from any other cancer, because other cancers, nobody knows you have it.
Yeah.
You is not taken away. Whereas you have a hand, a man has a hand, a girl has a boy has a hand or a leg, but a breast only a woman has. So when that is missing, I mean, these are the very words a survivor told me. I asked her, what is the difference between the cancers and why is you're so traumatized by a breast cancer?
Right.
You're able to say that because you don't have it. I said, quite true. Then she explained it. It is, when you look at a woman, if you don't have a breast, does she look like a woman to you?
Not observably, not
Yes.
observably.
Yeah, it's so different. So she said that is one of the reasons. And as a result of which they don't want to go out, be at home. And this is something they don't even talk about to their very close family. Some of them don't even speak about it to their husbands. Some of the husbands don't even ask them if they want a replacement. I mean, that is really very sad, but yes, there are very few husbands who are very, very cooperative and very supportive of their wife when she goes through the trauma. So these women, when they see this is there, it's absolutely essential that they have something. And other alternatives available in the market is expensive. Silicone breasts are expensive.
Definitely.
Feels, I've already spent so much of money. My husband has already spent so much of money, maybe 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs, whatever, on treatment. Do you think I should go and ask him, I want a breast?
Yeah.
You really think about it that way. And I'm being very frank with you, Raisha. I don't know if it'll be okay with the
no, please, ma'am, please. I think
it is really that bad, because why I'm saying it is I find that our society still has not opened up so much, which it needs to. And so she says, I can't ask him to spend on this. I said, why not? I mean, because I fortunately have a very supportive husband. I can speak anything about him. I can talk to him anything about under the sun. I have no problem. Not everybody has somebody that's supportive. So it's a very difficult thing. And then she says, you won't understand. It is not possible. I can't ask. So I have been using a dupatta or paper or a handkerchief. And then she says, you don't know, how do I go to a bra shop and ask him that I want something? Because there are some shops which do give heavy foam, dense foam one, which cannot. When I started it out also, I went around to a couple of places who provide prosthetics, and I asked what they give for a breast cancer. They showed me a very hard conical shape of thing. And I looked at it, I said, this is hard foam and it is not washable. He says, yeah, you air dry it and wear. I said, air dry it? He said, yeah. I said, okay. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that a woman sweats. And that is going to be sogging wet. And how is she going to wash it? Air dry it. Is that going to be enough? Is it going to be hygienic? Whereas a man will use his t-shirt, he's sweating, you wear off, you'll put a deodorant, you'll do all sorts of things. And what about a woman who doesn't have a breast, poor thing, loses this? So, these are small things that really hit me. I said, oh my God, this is not right. So that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm going here and there, but
no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because on the surface, it's very easy to be like, a breast is just it's just a vanity after a point.
Yes.
But it's not. It's just so essential to your identity.
I'm getting requests from 75-year-old women who've not had a breast for more than 12 years.
Wow.
But the prosthesis now. I said, fine, we'll give it to you. No problem. We don't ask questions. It's fine.
Yeah, definitely. And, on that same note, because as you said, you are personally not a survivor. So you've got that question a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
after Saisha and before, like, what has really changed in you itself?
See, I can only say that my husband has been really very supportive. He's a person who's really supported me right through and through. And as founders, we are both of us totally immersed in this, right? And he has and I would say, in other words, we are the founders, we are the managers, we are the financiers, we are the dispatch clerks, we are everything rolled in one. I don't have anybody doing the work. I do all the work, including filling, dispatching, everything. It's a lot of work. And my husband takes charge of all, he is in charge of all the writing work, the stock maintaining. Yes, we do have volunteers doing a little bit of it in their own places, but the general stock he maintains, he does all that. And he has a lot of health issues. Okay. Is actually, we are at it more than, I would say, 16 hours a day, which has helped us not think about ourselves. We are so busy, we are not thinking about ourselves. And as a result, we are keeping healthier. We are happier. We are more satisfied. And that gives us freedom from, I think, thinking about ourselves and our pains. He has a lot of problems, but there are some days when he hasn't even bothered to think about that. I have to remind him, have you taken your medicines? Because he's so engrossed, he has forgotten to take his medicines. But that's a very nice thing, because you at this age, he's not young, he's 71. Okay. And that's an age when everybody says we are old. But I think we have just started our life. So and as absolutely, I think we've changed, because we've learned to be more concerned about what we are doing, think about the other person. And we are so happy when we receive a beneficiary who tells us, who's so happy about what they've got. And, when they talk to us, and these interactions have really helped us to empathize with them. It has taught us to be patient, although as older senior citizens, we are patient to a large extent. I think we have learned to be more patient, and we have understood how as a group we have to function. All these things have, I think, improved our lives as such. I wouldn't say it has improved your life, if you say materialistically, no. But yes, emotionally and on the subconscious level and psychologically, we are better people. We are definitely far better people than some of the senior citizens I've seen around.
Definitely. And, I just think that it's so inspiring, because I want to start young, or I think people like my friends, we should start young. And, we are involved in philanthropy or community service, but it's still largely very like, what am I getting out of it? Am I getting a certificate for it?
That's exactly my next question. I was going to ask you that. We want the youngsters to come in, learn the craft, not for the fact that you get a certificate. Because you have to learn it, because it's first, not just the youngsters, even your parents who are not very old. It's very therapeutic, very therapeutic. Because when you sit and crochet or knit, your mind is on that pattern, how it comes out, and you just don't bother about anything else. And it really helps you to calm yourself. And as students, as children, it's very important that you learn to do that, because that gives you, you're able to concentrate on something which is not connected to your marks, but it is bettering yourself as a human being. And you're also giving something to others, not expecting, because you don't know who it's going to. So you don't expect anything in return. And it is just a very small thing. It doesn't cost you very much. Really, it doesn't cost you. It costs you 15 minutes of your time every day. That's it.
Time well spent, I would say.
Very well spent, because I always say, it teaches you values and how children can be useful in social causes. You can bring about a lot of change.
That's true.
We have, and that is where you are, I wouldn't know, but like we have started recently, we have started making beanies for the cancer children. And do you know there are cancer children in St. Jude's, one institution where we are supplying these beanies, 0 to 14 years. There are 400 children pan-India every month.
Wow.
Every month. And we are giving them, every quarter, we are giving them 400 caps. And these children, I mean, I can't believe a 3-month-old baby having cancer.
Yeah.
And this is when, as children, if you are able to come and do something, you realize that how blessed you are when you have your parents who are educating you, you have a good school, you have good meal, food, for 2 square meals or more per day, and you have good clothes to wear, and you have a roof over your head. And touch wood, you have no health issues. These children at 3 years and 2 years and 4 months, 12 years have cancer. Unbelievable. How does a child get cancer? But that is it. So, when you start, as I said, because I started young, I used to go to the Mercy Home, which had children of, they were orphans. Many of them were mentally unstable.
Right.
I used to go there, and those children used to, there were no diapers in those days. It's just cloth that people used to wear. They'll be urinating anywhere at all, just sitting and falling. And it was really dirty. And it is a little depressing if you're not of that same mental mind to accept that and go in. Because I've been going to them, I think even when I was about 15 or 16 years old. It's pretty young in those days for you to go and see such, pain. But then that has taught me a lot. That's why I say children should start young. I wouldn't say you need to go to the Mercy Home, but you can do something like this from your home. And like even, hair for care, you could donate your hair to cancer. I saw your hair and I was just wondering about it. 15 inches.
No, but definitely that sounds.
Yeah, that is something all girls can do. Just 15 inches of your hair is enough.
Yeah.
I'm told there are some people who make wigs and give it free. Not the real good, not the natural hair. They make it out of artificial hair, but they are given in exchange for real hair. Small things that all of us can do. So that is how I think you should start. Children should start young, and it will help you to do, give a meaning to your life, even when you're young.
Definitely.
Our motto is meaningful life. Saisha is meaningful life. So I think that is what we should do. So we don't want to give a certificate just because it's going to give you something in life. But the certificate has to be when you genuinely need it. You have to do the work and feel satisfied. And even tell me, I don't need a certificate for this, because you have got the happiness, which is the biggest certificate that you can get in life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's just so inspiring that, when you look at, say, the people you are helping, you're not looking at them with, say, pity or sorrow, but it's more of empathy, and you get empowered yourself from, sharing happiness. And I think that's honestly, truly the meaning of Saisha, meaningful life, really.
Yes, that is so very true. Because as I said, whenever I every time, through every phone call I get, makes it clear. And this is when, as I was saying, this is what happened when recently for our Pinktober that we are doing, we have made our volunteers. We have got every week, every Sunday, we've got a Zoom where we are meeting our beneficiaries, our volunteers, and our patrons who are our doctors and other NGOs. We're having a meet every Sunday. This is the last week we're having on coming Sunday. And what we did this time was we made every time it is me who talks to the beneficiaries. I talk to the beneficiaries. None of the volunteers know. It's just what they know from what I have told them. So this time we said this 1 month, we picked out a few volunteers who are ready to talk. We asked them to interview the beneficiaries to whom the knockers have been given and get a feedback from them. And they come out, and the volunteers are telling us, Jayashree, this is something really wonderful. I now get to know how much our making knockers means to these people. See, when tell them, it's different than when you experience it yourself from as they say, from the horse's mouth, which is the beneficiaries, because they talk to you and they tell you so much more. And I'm so glad I brought it up. We did this, it was suggested by, I think my husband was saying, let us have something like this and we can get the women to interview the women themselves instead of my doing it all the time. And this has really benefited so many of us. And some of the volunteers are saying, we will continue to keep in touch with them. I said, I'll give you more beneficiaries, doesn't matter. Please keep in touch with every one of them.
Yeah.
These are small things that the survey that we did has helped everybody. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think that's, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure the volunteers know they're making a difference, but seeing it unfold in front of their eyes, that's everything.
That is it.
About, just to wind up almost, I just wanted to ask, because it's Pinktober, do you have any specific aspirations, not only for this month, but perhaps for the next year when it comes to Saisha?
Our experience, this thing would be, see, I wouldn't be able to say anything like that. It's just, I would say that Saisha, we are looking out for more and more beneficiaries. Awareness has to be created. So we would love, and we have a very active social media platforms, which is a Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I would say that we have some very tech savvy volunteers who go beyond anything to do whatever they can to listen to get more people involved in our work. And their creative work is amazing. And we would like to, I would say, just create more awareness. And I would say, I will ask every one of you to look beyond yourself. Think about the other man's needs. And do not accumulate things that you don't need at all. Joy is not in accumulating, it is in giving with the least expectation of what is to come. What is there, what is going to be given back to you. And these are things that you need to experience. And unless, and Saisha has really taught us that when you come in, you experience a lot more than you expected. As I said, this has become such a snowballed into such a big thing now that I really don't know. I really don't know. I'm a little overwhelmed as to say, how am I going to? But I think I believe that more than me doing this, I've had the hand of God directing me. I have got indications like this. I am getting that He is there in every step that we have taken. And I have asked volunteers. Our volunteers are going that they do everything at all, anything at all. I just have to ask them, and they go beyond what we have asked to do things. And now they have worked with the Pinktober experience. Each of them wants to do more.
Right.
Reach out to more people, which is exactly what we want. That is the aim of Saisha. Reach out to as many people as needed and give the help that they need with whatever we can do for them. And I'm hoping, and I'm very positive that this will happen in the coming years to come.
Definitely, ma'am. I'm sure. I mean, it's just so inspiring to hear from you, and I'm hoping, the message spreads and you get more volunteers, and whoever's listening and watching, I hope they also join the cause.
Yes.
But thank you so much. I mean, for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you, Raisha. I'm really very happy to see that a young person like you is so involved in this, and I'm sure we will make a difference.
Yes, ma'am.
A few years down the line, we'll all be making a difference. You'll all make a difference to this world. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, ma'am, to the Teen Tribune's interview.